And good morning, cinephiles. Thank you so much for joining me on the morning movie show. A tiny little bit of a rebrand on what we were doing yesterday, but like I said, this is an experiment. We're trying out new things all the time, and hopefully, as we move into the future, it will get even better. I'm joining you this morning with some tea, because it is, in fact, the morning, and Daddy needs a little bit of caffeine to get him going. Although that is still steaming hot. So, probably best to avoid that for now. Good morning, Dory. Good to see you. And how are you doing this morning? So, today on the morning movie show, we have to start things off on a little bit of a sad note. Yesterday, it was announced that Melvin Van Peebles died. He, according to this headline, an iconic filmmaker, an actor, and a novelist, and he was 89 years old. And his death seems to have coincided with a New York Film Festival anniversary screening of his work, as well as a Criterion Collection box set that was coming out. I believe it's actually coming out this week or next week. And it is all around a sad moment for everyone in the cinema community. So, to honor Melvin, I'm just going to go through this article. It lists off a number of his achievements, and then we're going to watch some of the trailers to his films, including recent restorations of his work. So, Melvin Van Peebles, multi-hyphenate talent, director, writer, composer, actor, author, has died at the age of 89. The news was announced on Wednesday by the Criterion Collection and Janus Films, which shared it on behalf of the entire Van Peebles family. The giant of American cinema passed away on October 21st at home with his family. Van Peebles gave American independent cinema exactly what it needed, when it needed it most. An explosive shakeup with an unfiltered expression of black consciousness and energetic style. The anarchic 1971 blaxploitation classic Sweetwater's Badass Song undeniably shifted the course of American film history, and it was one piece of a remarkably varied career that also encompassed forays into European art house cinema, such as The Story of a Three-Day Pass, Hollywood comedy like Watermelon Man, and Broadway productions like Don't Play Us Cheap. It also included novels and performances. He was a transformative artist whose biting observations of social mores, unapologetic radicalism, and vision established a model for black creative independence. Van Peebles was born in Chicago in 1932 and graduated with a BA in literature from Ontario Wesleyan University, and less than 2 years later joined the Air Force, in which he served for nearly 4 years. His early work, including the book The Big Heart, eventually led him to filmmaking. His first short, Pickup Men for Henrik, was made in 1957 and quickly followed by others. Though Hollywood initially rejected Van Peebles' bid for feature filmmaking, his globe-trotting nature eventually led to earning more admirers and accolades across the world. In the early 60s, he moved to France, where he continued to write, make films, and even launch his debut album. His first feature, The Story of a Three-Day Pass, won an award at the San Francisco International Film Festival and subsequently caught the eye of Hollywood brass. In 1970, he made his studio debut with Columbia Pictures' feature Watermelon Man. His follow-up feature was the groundbreaking Sweetback's Badass Song, which privately funded with his own money and directed, scripted, edited, wrote the score, and even directed the marketing campaign. The film helped kickstart the blaxploitation craze in American cinema, and in 2020, the film was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress as being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The iconic creator continues to be celebrated today, even just this week, as the New York Film Festival will this weekend host a 50th anniversary screening of his landmark film, Sweetback's Badass Song. A Criterion Collection box set, Melvin Van Peebles' Essential Films, will be released next week, and a revival of his play, Ain't Supposed to Die a Natural Death, is slated for return to Broadway next year. In a brief statement of his father passing, Mario Van Peebles, his son and longtime creative collaborator, said, "Dad knew that black images matter. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, what was a movie worth? We want to be the success we see, thus we need to see ourselves being free. True liberation did not mean imitating the colonizer's mentality. It meant appreciating the power, beauty, and interconnectivity of all people. Doria, I see that you sent me a trailer to my Twitter account, so I will check that very quickly. But first, I just wanted to go through some more of the reaction to Melvin Van Peebles' death. First with Ava Durnevy. You have not let yourself believe you can't. Do what you can do within the framework you have, and don't look outside, look inside. This is a quote that DuVernay, excuse me, the iconic artist, filmmaker, actor, playwright, novelist, composer, and sage Melvin Van Peebles, who has gone home at the age of 89. That is a quote from Melvin. And now just to go through some other reaction. We have David Allen Greer saying, "We've lost another lion, the true revolutionary, an artistic gangsta, cultural disruptor who forever changed the game. Rest in peace, Melvin Van Peebles." Autovan Bismarcky, R.I.P. Melvin Van Peebles, a genius auteur who sparked a revolution in 1970s black cinema, without whom the films of Tarantino and Spike Lee would be irrecoverably different, who introduced Earth, Wind, and Fire to the world and possessed unimpeachable integrity and futuristic, searing vision. And finally, with Matthew A. Cherry, "Damn, rest in peace, Melvin Van Peebles, the blueprint and inspiration for multiple generations of filmmakers, a whole legend." That sounds appropriate. While I'm here, I don't see any messages from you, Dory. Nor do I see anything like that. Did you send it to my personal Twitter account? Dory, I think it's possible that you sent a trailer to the wrong Twitter account because I'm not seeing anything on my end. So if you just want to check to make sure that you sent it to Cinemateq with an underscore at the end, I was not able to secure Cinemateq without the underscore at the end. And if you want to resend that, that would be for the best. Okay. So now that we have gone through this article, which tells us a bit about Melvin Van Peebles' career and looked at some of the reaction, let's now watch a couple of trailers for some of the films that were mentioned in that article so we can have a better appreciation of some of the work that Melvin Van Peebles did. This first trailer is Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. This is a trailer for a 4K restoration that Vinegar Syndrome completed, and this is coming from the American Genre Film Archive account. Just get it up here, and I'll just put the volume up. So, and I won't be talking through these trailers. I will during normal trailer reactions, but this is not a normal trailer reaction, so let's just appreciate the work of Melvin Van Peebles.
Hey, Major Mama! Hey, Major Mama! But he won't bleed me.
We just want to borrow one of your boys for a couple hours and take him downtown to make us look good.
When did you people start getting so interested in black folks?
How many men were in the ambush?
You offer pretty good news to me, slapping up on some white cops.
I want them, do you hear? And I want them now.
Now you gonna hibernate like that old bear.
You got some fat back.
Where's Sweetback?
I'm looking for myself. No, I haven't seen. Never heard of him. What else do he go by?
Come on and cook with me. Yeah, yeah.
Bingo, we got him.
Is this Sweetback's body?
Run, Sweetback!
They told me to pick up Sweetback. You Sweetback, ain't you?
You saved a planet that they were planning to pick in the bud. That's why the man's down on you.
That looks pretty great. Next is the Watermelon Man trailer. Let me just close some of these tabs. Thank you, Dory. I will look at that trailer just as soon as we're done with these Melvin Van Peebles trailers.
Winner and still undefeated, folks. Pay some respectful homage, please.
Fair, please.
Arrogant, arrogant, they're all arrogant. In the good old days, back in the old South, you'd have to drive from back here. Get it? Back of the bus?
I do kind of love how they referenced Toronto's Trash Palace there. That is a a very small venue in Toronto that I have not been to, but it is well known for showing 16mm film on 16mm film. And then the last trailer that we're going to check out from Melvin Van Peebles is The Story of a 3-Day Pass. And this is, I believe, a restoration. Yes, this is a 4K restoration. And the film was playing at Film Forum earlier in the year, and I imagine that these films will be made more widely available now that the Criterion release is going forward. So keep a lookout for, excuse me, keep a lookout at your local repertory cinema, and perhaps you'll be able to see one of these 3 films, if not all of them.
Turner, I have a pleasant surprise for you. A 3-day pass. You'll be going to Paris, I suppose. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now remember, if I can't trust you, I'll bust you.
Uncle Tom? Yeah, you. You are the captain's new good colored boy. You are the captain's Uncle Tom, baby. I'm not the captain's Uncle Tom. Maybe yes, maybe no.
No more slaving in the rain. No more boots full of mud and pain. Corn clippers for bad walking feet. A new shade for fine relief. Boss on me, you don't get a thing. The man always say you got a sauce on your tail. And you do this but I go to jail. I don't care what the man say you got on me. No more putting it down. I just dream my number now.
Je veux garder cet instant
Don't count your chickens before they're hatched, baby.
That's all. You're dismissed.
Gotta love the trailers that end with an allowance for you to go back to your normal life. I do actually enjoy that. So, Dory, you did actually send in a trailer. I'm curious. Why don't we take a look at that right now? This is a trailer for The Sadness. All right. Dory, in the chat, can you let us know when... Actually, I guess I'll be able to see this when I click on it. Can I watch this on YouTube? Yeah, let's go to YouTube, baby. So let's see. This trailer was released about a month ago, I'm going to say. Yeah, a little more than a month ago. Shall we do a proper trailer reaction? All right. I'm going to turn down the audio on the desktop audio so you guys won't be able to hear it as much. But then you'll still be able to hear the wonderful sounds of my voice, which is really why we're all here. Oh, this is an extremely not safe for work Red Band trailer, huh? Dory, you're trying to get me demonetized even though I'm not monetized yet. Let's be rebellious. Proper trailer reaction. Let's go. Aw, they're in love. And he makes the bed? This is a good guy. Going through the minutia of everyday life. I don't like the look of that guy. Oh, Raven Banner did that. Is doing this, I should say. Hey man, don't be fucking creepy. Yeah, like that ever worked at some point in the past. Well, that's a bit of a curveball. Oh my god. That is some fucking blood. Oh my goodness. This was at Fantasia and I missed it? I must not have been, must not have been part of the digital festival. So it seemed like there's like some zombie stuff going on here, right? Yeah. Oh, Jesus. That is very bloody. I do like the look overall of what I'm seeing here. Oh, it's the most violent. Really? I'm shocked by this. Ooh, and it's depraved. Oh my god. Looks like that guy's in this movie for a while. Okay, now we get to slow down. Now we get to breathe a little bit. Has this guy really just been stalking this girl the whole movie? Holy shit. And I don't say that lightly. My goodness, that first little bit, that first stab in the neck, that's when you know exactly what kind of film it is. I do appreciate that they kind of swerve you with this trailer. Like right... Let's just turn the sound off on that for now. Actually, I guess I can leave it going. But just in here, with this guy being super creepy and just saying he's beautiful, like when I see the film name called The Sadness, I just assume this is going to be, especially when I'm presented with this kind of image, I assume that this is going to be some kind of old shitty man attacks a younger female. And maybe this turns into like a revenge film or something like that. But then random guy in sunglasses comes out of nowhere, stabs some other random dude in the neck, and we get a blood geyser that is kind of on par with the kind of shit that you would see in Nightmare on Elm Street when Johnny Depp gets pulled into the bed. I guess this guy, if we just go back there a second, I feel like the guy in the glasses, he's got some redness. He's got a little bit of redness under these sunglasses. Makes me think that he may be a zombie or something that's already in transition, and he has these violent impulses because of that. And those violent impulses cause him to just stab someone randomly in the neck. Yeah, like this dude has not been in the trailer at all before now, so just a random guy. I'm sorry, my man. But at the same time, I don't feel too sorry for him, because he is what allows us to have the Blood Geyser. Woo! Ladies and gentlemen, cinephiles alike, that is not how blood works. Also, I didn't get a good chance to look at this. So this thing is playing currently at Fantastic Fest. So if you are in Texas, make your way over to Austin to see this, I guess. But it also would have premiered at Locarno, because I believe that festival happens earlier in the year. And it's also part of the Era Video Fright Fest, the Dark Heart of Cinema in London 2021. And it's in Fantasia. So this makes me think, and Dory, it kind of plays into what you were saying, in that The Sadness has been released in Asia, but not in America or Canada. This will likely see its Canadian premiere at the Toronto After Dark Film Festival, I would imagine. Actually, well, no, it already had its Canadian premiere at Fantasia, so it'll probably see its Ontario or Toronto premiere at Toronto International Film Festival. That means nothing for pretty much everyone watching this show, but that's what it means for me. Just keep going through this. Oh, and Dory, you're right. Fast zombies should be illegal. If we are ever in a zombie apocalypse and the zombies end up being fast zombies instead of nightmare or Night of Living Dead zombies, then every person who had fantasies about surviving the zombie apocalypse is just dead. They're just dead. Even me, I'm like, yeah, I could probably survive the zombie apocalypse. I just need to like get my baseball bat out, bash some heads in, jog every now and again, no problem. But fuck that, fast zombies. I'm staying in my goddamn apartment and I am starving to death over the course of like 2 weeks. That's my plan in a fast zombie apocalypse. It's also interesting, like this guy, because he seems to be kind of the central figure of this trailer, even though we are introduced to the two lover characters at the beginning. And I imagine that the film as a whole follows the couple that we see at the beginning and their attempts to try to reunite, and then this guy is kind of chasing them. And so by the way that he's like bathing his hands in blood, I wonder if like the blood itself has kind of a disease in it. Like if you get the blood on you, it starts to turn you, because he doesn't appear to be bitten or anything like this, but he's already kind of looking a little sketchy. You know what I mean? And these zombies obviously look different. Like, I think we're talking about black eyes, smiling, because of course, why not make them just way creepier? And that's not what the previous guy was exhibiting. So I believe that's where they made their lead. I can only assume that when that person hits the ground, it's just going to be like a big of blood coming up. And also just like looking at this scene, like this is coming from inside of the subway car that we were just in, which, by the way, that subway car is gigantic. What the hell? I am not getting good transit in Toronto, am I? And yeah, okay, so in that one, in that brief shot, splat. So here's creepy sexual assault guy. And it looks like he has turned into like the quote-unquote zombie, but he is also using an axe. So I feel like this is kind of like a zombie apocalypse, but the but the zombies woke up on the violence side of the bed. You can see there, he's not smiling, but his eyes have started to go black like we saw with the other zombies. That old woman. Oh my goodness. Let's go. That is the stuff of nightmares. And that is why I've done a freeze frame of this. So it can still be the stuff of nightmares. Stuff of your nightmares. And mine, if we're being honest, can also be the stuff of my own nightmares. And yeah, like, there's another example of a zombie using a tool. which is not something that we expect from zombie films. Really, the only other time I can think of a zombie film where that happened was in Land of the Dead, when when Romero zombies eventually started going back to their old ways. They remembered how to use like guns and stuff like that. And this guy, I believe he's still... Oh no, he has a different weapon. It's not the axe anymore. Andres, welcome to the show. This is The Sadness. We were just going through this trailer that Dory sent over. It's pretty wild. Good to see you, Andres. I am going to be cutting this up into a trailer reaction that'll be on the channel later. So if you want to see full reactions of this, just get subscribed. But I already know that you are, so it's all good. Let's just finish this off. I think that's it. Yep, that looks wild and insane and the perfect kind of movie for... I don't even know. What is that the perfect movie for? Everything? Definitely for October. That is a gosh darn, like, oh my goodness. That is an October movie if I have ever seen the trailer for one. All right, so let's continue on with the news, because there is a lot of news that we have to go through. Not go through, but I think news that is important that we should be checking out. First things first, got to start talking about the IATSE strike. It seems that Fran Drescher and other SAG-AFTRA leaders have joined the chorus of actors supporting IATSE's demands for a fair contract. And of course, in any kind of labor action, it is solidarity and support from your fellow unions and guilds that will help sway what is going on. So just to read off here, SAG-AFTRA President Fran Drescher has joined the chorus of actors voicing their support for IATSE's demands for a fair contract as IATSE prepares to take a strike authorization vote. Quoting, "Standing in solidarity with my on-set friends and colleagues in IATSE," she tweeted on Wednesday, "Entertainment content only happens because our crews are extraordinary." Many other SAG-AFTRA leaders have also taken to Twitter to express their support. "I stand with you, my IATSE brothers and sisters," tweeted former SAG-AFTRA President Gabriel Cardieres. "You make entertainment magic and deserve fairness and dignity on your job." Jolie Fisher, recently elected Secretary-Treasurer of SAG-AFTRA, tweeted, "To my sisters and brothers and others in IATSE, I stand with you in solidarity." So these are a lot of bigwigs coming forward. You can see here, we also have a photo of Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin with their support for the IATSE union. So this is definitely picking up steam. I think that this IATSE strike, even though the strike authorization vote has not happened yet, I think we can honestly look at this as something that is just a foregone conclusion. I think we are definitely moving towards a strike. Based on some of, well, at least the one demand that we talked about on the show yesterday, I doubt that the players on the other side of the table are going to be that accepting of any kind of new deal or meeting the demands of IATSE. So I think we're in for a strike. And this was kind of mentioned on the show yesterday, but I just want to reiterate this point. This is really only, as far as we know, IATSE in the USA. We also have IATSE unions in Canada, and I believe they are worldwide, although I'm not exactly sure in which other countries they also exist. So this will mostly affect productions. Well, this will only, to my knowledge, affect productions in America. Now, what will be interesting to see is if Hollywood productions that shoot overseas, if they will also be shut down through some sort of cooperative or collective movement by unions from all over the world. As an example, James Bond films, the Fantastic Beasts films, etc. Those are all shot in the UK. The Star Wars films, when they were being made, were all done in the UK. So do guilds and unions in the UK show solidarity with their brothers and sisters and other members in IATSE America, and do they strike as well, or do they try to do something similar? That remains to be seen. What could end up happening, and if Hollywood studios are smart about this and they really want to grind the union down, is that they will just take all of their future films which haven't shot yet or have not gone to principal photography yet, and attempt to move them as much as they can overseas. This could include films shooting in places like Hungary. That's a place where I believe the Mission Impossible movies tend to end up when they're not shooting in when they're not shooting in locations that need to be specific places. Like, if they're doing a chase scene in Paris, they need to be in Paris. For a lot of other stuff, they are likely shooting in places like Hungary. So there is the potential that a lot of films like that could move over to those countries. The other part of this is that there probably are some films that were shot during the pandemic that just haven't been released yet, and those could be the films that end up moving forward on the release calendar in order to make up for any kind of gap that this strike could potentially cause. That said, if everything does sort of stay as it is, and this is just IATSE in America, then of course production in Canada would still go through, and production elsewhere in the world would go through. So it really is only the landlocked to the United States productions that are at risk here. But hopefully there is some kind of solidarity worldwide, because labor needs help. And then there is another part of this. Just wanted to bring this up quickly. This was released yesterday evening. IATSE, gearing up for second strike, seeks separate strike authorization from locals across USA. IATSE is now gearing up for a second strike against the film and TV industry, with the union and its 13 West Coast studio locals already threatening to strike over terms for a new Hollywood Basic Agreement. IATSE is now seeking a second strike authorization vote for a separate contract covering film and TV work in much of the rest of the country. The contract is called the Area Standards Agreement and covers 23 locals outside of Los Angeles. So this is something that I wasn't aware of before, but the first strike authorization was limited to the West Coast, to Hollywood, and now they are seeking a second strike vote in the locals that are outside of Los Angeles. So this strike movement is only growing, is only becoming more severe for Hollywood studios. And this is absolutely a tactic on the part of the union in order to put more pressure on the Hollywood studios. And hopefully it works, and that IATSE gets everything that they want and we can avoid a strike. All it takes is Hollywood not being greedy. And this is a point that I wanted to bring up yesterday that I forgot to. Yesterday was not my best streaming day, I'm willing to admit it, but now I'm a little bit more on the ball because I have my tea. And that point that I wanted to bring up is that these types of negotiations are going to be ever more important because we are moving towards what is essentially a functional monopoly in Hollywood. This is due to Disney gaining more and more power. We saw Disney gain power when they bought Fox. So there's just a major player off the board. It now belongs to Fox. But then, and this is something that I didn't have the opportunity to talk about, and I just want to make sure that what I'm actually saying is true. So I don't know if this is actually what... Oh no, this is talking about the Paramount decrees. That's not what I want. In any case, Paramount new head. But who's the new guy? Head of Paramount Pictures is ousted as Viacom CBS focuses on streaming. So this is what I'm talking about here. Brian Robbins, 58, who runs Viacom's children's television business, will succeed Mr. Giannopoulos, 69, as the chief executive of Paramount Pictures, Viacom CBS said. Emma Watts, 51, the president of Paramount Motion Picture Group, was notably passed over for the job. And I'm not sure if they talk about it in this article. But the ouster rattled the film business nonetheless. It was seen by some as barbarous, tradition holds senior statesmen get to write their own endings, and it was added to a changing of the guard. Ron Moore, a longtime film power at Universal, left last year amid a sex scandal, and Alan F. Horn, the chief creative officer at Walt Disney Studios, is widely expected to retire in the coming months. Bob Bakish, the chief executive of Viacom, said the statement that the leadership change would build on Paramount's strong momentum, ensuring it continues to engage audiences at scale while embracing viewers' evolving taste and habits. He and Mr. Robbins was an expert at developing franchises by leaning into unique strengths of new and established platforms. For many film industry stalwarts, Mr. Robbins is an affront to their identities. He comes from television, said while holding one's nose. Mr. Robbins has experience as a movie producer and director, but much of the Hollywood establishment looks down on that part of his resume, which includes Norbit. Not exactly Oscar bait. So there was a statement released after this, which essentially stated that Paramount was going to be, I want to say running from, but receding from the theatrical business to focus on its streaming offerings. Once again, just hoping to find the thing where they actually say that they're going to be not going to theaters. This is why you should always prepare. All right. I can't find that article, so I will be less enthusiastic about this opinion. But to go back to my initial point about why this is important, that I do not want to sign into the New York Times. Thank you very much. The initial thing that I was going with as to why this is important is that Disney is gaining more and more power in the theatrical distribution market in the United States and Canada. This is bad for business because it means they are more able to dictate the terms of theaters and what they release and how much money they are going to get from those releases, the studios, I mean. This means unfair terms for theaters. This means less money for theaters, especially local theaters, who will no longer be able to show Disney products. And if companies like Paramount continue to step back or not put as much emphasis on the theatrical releases, that just leaves more and more space for Disney to step in and take over and be able to dictate even harsher terms. This is something that we shouldn't be allowing to happen, and yet it continues to happen because we don't have anything. We can't do anything about this. Eventually, at some point, there will have to be an antitrust suit launched against Disney because they will own too much of the theatrical market in the United States and Canada. This will have to be done. It may be years from now, but it will eventually need to be done. And as the studios are able to leverage more and more control over theatrical distribution, if Disney continues to have oversized power compared to the rest of the industry, they will start also demanding that unions like IATSE and the Directors Guild and the Writers Guild take worse and worse deals. Because if Disney just says, fine, we just won't use unions, that will be a huge hit to everyone in the industry. And don't think that they wouldn't do that. Disney is a bottom line corporation. They will do whatever they need to do in order to secure more revenue. So this is something that we absolutely have to be aware of. We have to be conscious of it. And it's why it's so important to support unions now for the fights that they have coming down the line, especially in the film world, because this is going to be potentially catastrophic for so many people if the power of Disney continues to grow. All of that said, I'm just going to take a quick little tea break. Delicious, delicious tea. So now that all of that has been said, let's move on to some other news. Assassin Club. Henry Golding, Noomi Rapace, Sam Neill, and Suicide Squad breakout Daniela Melchior are starring in action spy movie shooting now in Italy. And this is a Deadline exclusive. Here's a hot one that has gone under the radar. Henry Golding, Noomi Rapace, Sam Neill, and Daniela Melchior have been quietly filming an action film called Assassin Club in Italy. EuropaCorp veteran Camille Delamere, who I guess also did Transporter Refueled, is directing the movie, which has just wrapped who's just wrapped the shoot in Turin, Italy. So they're already done shooting. It's not currently shooting. It has shot in Italy. Assassin Club takes place in the world of international spies and elite assassins. In this world of contract killers, Morgan Gaines, Henry Golding, is the best of the best. When Morgan is hired to kill 6 people around the world, he soon discovers all of the targets are also assassins unknowingly hired to kill each other. Rapace plays Falk, and the only assassin with skills to match his own. Under the guidance of his mentor, Jonathan Caldwell, who is Sam Neill, Morgan must defeat Falk and the other assassins to keep himself and his girlfriend, Melchior, alive. On this note, I'm happy that Henry Golding is getting another shot at leading an action film after Snake Eyes did not do great at the box office. I'm also wondering how the action is going to look in this. One of the main criticisms of the Snake Eyes film was its camera was oh so shaky during fighting scenes. And I would have to rewatch it again, but I would need to rewatch it again to see if this was done perhaps for the benefit of Henry Golding, who, to my knowledge, is not a trained martial artist. So it would be interesting to see in this movie what sort of action sequences they put Henry Golding in, if that is in fact the case. I love the man. I hope he can kick all kinds of butt on his own. But if he doesn't really have those kinds of action chops, and it leads to filmmaking decisions having to reflect and cover up for that, that's not great. But I would, of course, be willing to give this one a go. Has 4 actors in it that I enjoy. Sam Neill especially. That silver fox. Look at that man. Look at that smile. He kind of smells like I smile, actually. If only I had all of my hair left, I may one day look like Sam Neill. All right, moving on from an Assassin Club, we have some news about the third Fantastic Beasts film, also known as a film that probably no one is going to see because the first 2 were so incredibly panned by critics. I guess the third film will be a barometer as to how much punishment Harry Potter fans are willing to endure. But it appears, according to the Variety headline, that Fantastic Beasts 3 has unveiled its 2022 release date and title. The next Fantastic Beasts installment, newly titled The Secrets of Dumbledore, will open in theaters on April 15th, 2022. So less than a year away. Half a year away. Yeah, it's not that far off, actually. Now, I wonder, now that this announcement has been made, and when was this done? This was yesterday morning this was released. What? We should have seen this yesterday. I wonder why we didn't. The Secrets of Dumbledore. I wonder what that's going to actually be. Which secrets? Which secrets? Dory reiterating that the second Fantastic Beasts is god-awful, but you like the first one. All right, maybe I'll actually check the first one out. I feel like most of these Harry Potter films, they're kind of like hungover on a Sunday type movies, you know? That's how I feel about a lot of the Marvel films as well. I don't want to make it seem like I'm giving unnecessary shade to the Harry Potter films. A lot of the big action blockbusters that are kind of, you know, big action blockbusters, I feel like they're mostly hungover on Sunday type films. In that is the amount of brain power that I need to enjoy them. Very little. And then following on the heels of this, we have Johnny Depp, former actor from the Fantastic Beasts films, saying that oh, this goddamn article. Says cancel culture is so far out of hand and no one is safe. Ask people to stand up against injustice. And to note, he made these comments while accepting an award at an international film festival. The very canceled Johnny Depp accepting a public award at an international film festival. I guess they didn't cancel him hard enough. Let's get into the article a little bit. Johnny Depp went on record today saying that he is a victim of cancel culture and that no one is safe from the movement, calling on people to stand up for people facing injustice. It can be seen, and this is a quote, it can be seen as an event in history that lasted for however long it lasted, this cancel culture, this instant rush to judgment based on what essentially amounts to polluted air, he commented ahead of receiving the honorary Danista Award at this year's San Sebastian Film Festival. It's so far out of hand now that I can promise you that no one is safe. Not one of you. Not one out that door. No one is safe, he continued. It takes one sentence and there is no more ground. The carpet has been pulled. It's just me. It's not just me that this has happened to. It's happened to a lot of people. This type of thing has happened to women, men. Sadly, at a certain point, they begin to think that it's normal or that it's them when it's not. Johnny Depp here giving a little bit of a victim narrative. Of course, he was dragged through the mud when his lawsuit with Amber Heard was going through the courts. Wasn't great for him, certainly, but we also have to remember that Johnny Depp is not actually canceled. Just like Mel Gibson is not actually canceled. Just like Roman Polanski is not actually canceled. The only people who end up getting actually canceled are criminals who go to court, such as Harvey Weinstein. And that wasn't even enough to get someone like Bill Cosby canceled because he was recently released from jail. This notion that cancel culture is out of control and that no one is safe and that we need to stand up to it is ridiculous because cancel culture doesn't actually really exist. What they're talking about is people saying things about celebrities. And a lot of those things are unfavorable, and it's based on allegations essentially coming from women saying that these guys are fucking assholes. Yes, there will be moments when the accusations turn out to not be credible. However, 90% of the time, 95% of the time, they are. The issue here that we have to understand is that when those allegations come out, and in the 90 to 95% of time, when it turns out that these allegations are true, which is what it is true that these poor people who have been quote unquote canceled end up making a comeback in a couple of years and everything is fucking fine for them. And not only that, but all of these people are basically just rich people who are able to just recede from society for a couple of years, yet let some PR team work for them, and then here they are again, people who have credible allegations against them returning to society. And that's how it is. Cancel culture does not exist for these people. It just does not exist. Also, can we just start calling it consequence culture instead? Like you do bad thing, you pay price. I won't really go on and get into cancel culture any further than that. It's just so silly that like an insanely rich person at an international film festival who is receiving an award is bemoaning cancel culture. My goodness. Have some perspective, my dude. Yeah, Dory here saying that Johnny Depp made a good movie recently called Minamata, and that you saw it, and it's one of your faves of the year. Interesting. Just to prove that Johnny Depp is not canceled. Let's see if we can get some information on this movie. Directed by Andrew Levatis. It stars Mr. Depp, who does not look like Mr. Depp, as is true for all cases. Oh, Bill Nighy's also in this. Tadhana Buasano. I love him. All right, what's the deal here? In 1971, the American photographer Eugene Smith is famous for his numerous photographic essays published in Life. Oh, I think I've heard of this guy. But he becomes a recluse. While on a separate assignment, a passionate Japanese translator, Eileen urges Smith to visit Minamata to photograph and document the disease. What disease? Smith is finally convinced to do his best to unmask the devastating effects of corporate greed, an accomplice of the local police and government. He travels to Minamata in Japan to document the devastating effect of mercury poisoning and Minamata disease in coastal communities. Gotcha. Okay, okay. Might have to track this one down. Pretty not great box office, but that doesn't mean anything about the disease. Dory's saying if you like Dark Water, Minamata is very similar. Okay, okay. The Mark Ruffalo film from last year, unless of course you're talking about Dark Water, the Jennifer Connelly remake of the Japanese horror film of the same name. Very confusing, Hollywood. Why do you do this? The film premiered at the Berlin International Film Festival on February 21st, 2020. It has received positive reviews, with critics praising Depp's performance as one of his best, the accurate depiction of the story and its message, the supporting cast, and Levada's direction. Cool. Cool. All right, yeah, I give it a go. I need to do a bit more of a deep dive into Johnny Depp just to make sure that he's actually not worthy of being quote-unquote canceled. Because I do not like supporting jerkhead people who are still, making films and getting paid for them. But yeah, all right. Perhaps that movie could sway me back to liking Johnny Depp. Moving along. It appears that Megan Fox is in a new movie and it's all about vampires. And I think we will actually do a reaction to this trailer as well. Megan Fox, Debbie Ryan, and Lucy Fry are bloodsuckers in Netflix's vampire movie Night Teeth. And you know what? Let's just go straight to this and react to it without reading any more about it. I do kind of love the fact that Megan Fox is coming back into films and that it seems like whatever jail that she is in is now gone. She's been freed from it. So that's pretty great. So let's take a look at the Night Teeth trailer, and I'll be reacting to it live, and then we'll go through it again. Pretty stylish.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's play a game.
Ooh.
What would you do if you knew tonight was your last night under?
Wow.
Is this a lot? Pretty chill guy. What's he going to do?
I go to school.
Come on, driver.
Ooh, is that Sandstorm in the background? Maybe? No.
I'll definitely kill you.
Finally.
Oh. Bites back? Vampire movie.
And you need to get to the last stop by morning.
Oh, is this like Collateral but with vampires?
Benny?
Look at it. It's like a butler or something.
Yo, kill those people. They insulted you and said you look like a butler. Dang. Who does run the city?
Than you could ever imagine.
Megan Fox for the very first time, right there.
Okay, I'm just...
I feel like the use of Megan Fox's name in the headline of this article is a tad misleading.
There's these two women, right? And I've been driving them around all night.
This trailer reaction is definitely going to get claimed thanks to all this licensed music.
I need you to be smart. You do anything stupid, like try and run, I'm gonna have to kill you.
Is that Woody Harrelson? Is Woody Harrelson in this movie?
Okay, great.
Might get a little messy in there.
Ooh, that is a stab to the heart. Oh, blood feasting. Oh, Megan Fox again. She's been in this trailer for like 23 frames total.
What?
What is wrong with you?
You can't be alive for 200 years and not go a little crazy.
Fair point. I've only been alive for 35 years and I've already gone a little crazy. Coming October 20th. Okay, Night Teeth. Now I'm actually wondering who directed it. Because it had a... I'm not going to say like an insane style or an over-the-top style. But it definitely had a distinctive look to it. And it was directed by Adam Randall. Who the heck is Adam Randall? Ugh, I guess we have to use IMDb. God damn it. Also directed a movie called I See You. Featuring Helen Hunt? Really? Okay. I know nothing of this movie. And we will not be doing a trailer reaction to that. But, okay, okay. Seeing if there was an IMDb score up here, 6.8. Not horrendously terrible. So what do we think, chat? Is this a movie worth checking out? And this annoys me so much. The fact that like the 3 stars, the people that we see the most in the trailer, and also if I'm reading this right, that they excluded the name of the male lead, who is a person of color, in favor of Megan Fox's name for the clicks. Like, I understand that putting 4 names here might not have been great for your SEO or whatnot, or even just the flow of the title, but it's annoying when shit like that happens. Dory, you'd like me to share some thoughts on Annette? All right, let's just take... Actually, you know what? I probably won't go through the Night Teeth trailer again because I won't be able to cut that down into a reaction. There's too much licensed music. So yeah, share some thoughts on Annette. Let me just pull just something up here on Annette so it makes visual sense. Actually, maybe I'll just... Fuck it. I'll just switch back to full screen. Haha, hello. So, Annette. I, of course, saw the trailer that we all saw. And I knew that it opened the Cannes Film Festival and received some somewhat interesting reviews. I'm still not entirely sure what to make of that film. In terms of it as a musical, I found a lot of the songs to be overly repetitive. I think if you take a look at my Letterboxd review of it, I kind of try to make light of that. In my mind, in musicals, when main lines are, just repeated over and over and over and over again, I find that really bothersome. It's not something that I generally enjoy. And as far as the rest of it goes, it's hard for me to praise it, although I feel like it is worthy of some praise. It obviously decided to make a significant choice by having the baby be played by what is essentially like an animatronic puppet. That offered a pretty interesting visual contrast to the reality that we were seeing unfold before us. But it was also just kind of strange. And not to say that it's bad because it was strange. Someone is emptying out water on my balcony from above. I see you, upstairs neighbors, and I do not appreciate that. That has nothing to do with Annette. Yeah, it's a difficult film for me to give my thoughts on. I saw it weeks and weeks and weeks ago, and that was before TIFF, so already many films have gone through my head. I guess it was... My expectations going into Annette probably did a disservice to the film itself. I was expecting some kind of wonderful musical, and it wasn't the wonderful musical that I wanted. And I think partially because of that, it made me kind of avoid In the Heights when it came out, because I didn't want to be disappointed by a musical again, because I do like musicals. So, yeah, it's a tough one. It will not be getting on any of my best of the year lists. I think that Adam Driver has once again proven that he is one of our greatest living actors, especially when it comes to physically demanding roles. His physical presence on screen is incredible. Marion Cotillard does well with what she has, but I think Adam Driver is the standout from the film by far. So we have Dory saying Annette is praiseworthy. It was divisively bold. The story was not unique. Production design, very good. Yes. I think all of that rings true. But you really hated it, Dory? You were just giving it praise, and now you're saying that you hated Annette, or are you saying that you hated like the character of Annette in the film? Because that I can kind of see. Not everyone can get behind a wooden puppet being in the middle of a musical, especially when that wooden puppet ends up being the central focus of said film in the back half. But yeah, I think for me the point that stands out about Annette is that Adam Driver is super cool. He's super great, and we need to protect him at all costs. So now we've been going for about an hour. I'm just going to check in and see what kind of hot film news has dropped in that time. Ooh, there's been some film news. I don't know why, but it's either I think it's Slash Film or Variety. Some people have just started putting out Oscar predictions today, and I think it's probably a little too early for that, considering we are like 5 months away from the Oscars at this point. Okay, Dory saying that in total Annette was dumb and it broke my movie watching enthusiasm. Fair point. Fair point. Let's see. Oscar predictions. Ooh. There's one. I will get to this in a minute. Let's just see if there's anything else. Interesting, interesting, interesting. You guys can't see what I'm looking at. Okay, so the one thing that did pop up, and I'll just Dora, yeah, we have tons of time. So if you want me to talk about any film, especially if you know that I've seen the film, just let me know. I mentioned this yesterday, but I'd like for these streams to go for about 2 to 3 hours every day. So we are 1 hour in. Got another couple hours to go, and I have a bunch of articles still queued up that I want to talk about. That was news from after we stopped yesterday. So happy to talk about anything else. But I'll just head back to this view here. A follow-up to the IATSE story. The IATSE strike, as we were talking about before. The Editors Guild urges members to overwhelmingly approve IATSE strike authorization. So leaders of the Editors Guild, which is IATSE Local 700, are urging their members to vote overwhelmingly to authorize strike against the film and television industry. So that is just another important step forward on this front. And I imagine we're going to be seeing a number of different locals, IATSE locals, make similar declarations in the coming days. So when that happens, we will, of course, highlight it, chat about it a bit, but I think we have actually already talked about the IATSE strike enough today. So let's just go back over to the chat. Dory wants me to share my thoughts on America, the motion picture. Oh my goodness. What was my Letterboxd review of this? For those of you who don't know, on Letterboxd, I try to give funny reviews. I try to be clever. Sometimes it works. Most times it doesn't. But I try my darndest. Let's see. America. I know that I watched it somewhat recently. Although that doesn't really mean much in this context. America, the motion picture. Ah, yes. My review of America, the motion picture. I drink cheap beer, so what? Fuck you. For those of you who don't know, I believe there was a song in America, the motion picture by a band Fiddler, and they have a song called Cheap Beer, in which the chorus is just the lead singer yelling out, I drink cheap beer, so what? Fuck you. And I think that pretty well encapsulated my thoughts on America, the motion picture. Very over the top, to say the least. And yeah, it's of course a movie set, about the American Revolution, done as a kind of different what if scenario, while also I think trying to bring in the politics of today. And I remember it being funny. I also was probably inebriated based on the fact that I gave this particular review of it. Although maybe not, maybe not. I may not have been drinking that on that day. I think overall I was good with it. I liked it. I kind of also want it to be nominated for a Best Animated Film Oscar if possible, just because I think it would be funny for it to be nominated as such. I don't remember the animation being super standout. Let's see. My friend Rob Moden also reviewed this. What did he say? Look, it's a wavelength, and it's what's on the tin. It's up to you whether you think you'd enjoy 90 minutes of the American Revolution remix through 2010's American culture and sensibilities, including post-Apatow comedic dialogue and self-aware blockbuster access. But I had a real weird down week, and when I was up at 7 a.m. on a Wednesday, unmotivated to do anything except ingest a dumb comedy, it was a fun watch. Others will probably rightfully be caught wondering things like whether pointing out the racism and sexism of the country and genre it's lampooning does anything to excuse largely benching the women and people of color characters after the movie already went out of its way to include them in the first place. There's a fine line between what feels knowingly silly versus self-satisfied. To me, it helps that the gags, like bringing people to tea in turn to turn them British, or a failed stand at a bar called Vietnam, or endless colonial era riffs on Star Wars iconography, either come and go so breezily or are treated with such over-the-top gravitas that this movie has a giddy sense of getting away with something real dumb. And something, isn't that what America is? Insert something profound here. Rob Moden giving us the proper review that I should probably have been able to do on my own, but did not, because I'm not actually that good at my job. Why are you watching this? Although honestly, I feel like a lot of what he said was summed up in my review. Once again, just proving that I reviewed it like this. I drink cheap beer, so what? Fuck you. And I will take this moment now that I have remembered to go back into this proper review. Follow Rob Moden on Letterboxd. Why not? Guy's actually doing good reviews instead of short, stupid reviews like I do. But if you want short, stupid reviews of movies, you know where to find me. See, Dory saying, I loved American Motion Picture. I thought they made the Lego movies with American history. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a pretty valid way of looking at it. I wish that I had seen it more recently so I could get a bit more in depth on it. But unfortunately, this one was a while ago. When did I watch this? In July? Yeah. So overall, I remember having positive feelings with it. If I don't like a movie, and you're looking at my my Letterboxd reviews, if I don't like a movie, I tend to just like shrug my shoulders. Or I'm able to like kind of let you know that I didn't like the movie based on whatever silly things that I'm saying in Letterboxd. So in this case with American the Motion Picture, the fact that I quoted a song that I like means that I genuinely did enjoy this film. So there's a code to all of this. Reading my reviews on Letterboxd is a lot like the National Treasure films. A lot like the National Treasure films. All right, so now we're done with this, and we're done with this Megan Fox movie that barely has Megan Fox in it. And we're done with the trailer. We now move on to a little bit of film business news. Can Dear Evan Hansen dethrone reigning box office champ Shang-Chi? This, I think, it's interesting because Shang-Chi has been dominating the box office for a few weeks now in most of the big cineplexes, big multiplexes, because I am not sponsored by Cineplex on this stream. They have been showing Shang-Chi a lot. Like it's in the multiplexes, it's in pretty much every screen they can get it in. It's in all of the VIPs and the 40Xs and the IMAX. Just it's everywhere and it's all encompassing. And the extent to which Dear Evan Hansen is going to be a major release is something that I'm not quite sure about. Let's take a quick look at Box Office Mojo. See if they know. And also, I know I should not be using Box Office Mojo because it is powered by IMDb Pro, which means it's powered by Amazon. I hate myself for doing this, but no other website, to my knowledge, has this kind of details on films coming out. I was kind of hoping that they would show the amount of screens that it's going to be showing on, but they don't have that information yet, unfortunately. Or maybe it's behind a paywall because Papa Bezos needs to go to space again. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't have the information on the amount of screens that it will be playing on. However, we can see that for new films that are coming out this weekend, it is the only film that is being released wide. So I think we can count on it being in a ton of theaters. And actually, for a bit of further context, we can just check in with the local Cineplex and see. So I'm going to see, no, not, I do not go to Cineplex Strawberry Hill. Block. What is this thing doing? Wait, it's actually playing today? Really? But today, wait, no, today's Thursday. Never mind. I thought it was Wednesday. So let's see. Okay. Thank you for having a wonderful website, Cineplex. You're doing a bang up job as per usual. Ooh. How do I search this without giving away my location? Fine theaters, Yonge and Dundas. So this is the theater I was talking about. You can see Shang-Chi is pretty much everything. And its 3:30 screening today is already sold out. My goodness. But you will notice that its IMAX screenings stop halfway through today. And that is because Dear Evan Hansen is taking up a bunch of them. So compared to tomorrow, and I think this gives us a pretty clear indication. Let me just scroll down so you guys can see a bit more of this. So this is Shang-Chi versus Dear Evan Hansen in the Yonge and Dundas Square Cineplex in downtown Toronto, which is the Cineplex that has the most screens. And as we can see, the only thing that has really changed for Shang-Chi's release is that it is not being released in IMAX. So asking the question of, will Dear Evan Hansen dethrone Shang-Chi at the box office, I think is pretty laughable, considering the amount of screens it's actually going to be on. And just so we're not limiting this too much to one theater, let's also take a look at Scotiabank Theatre in Toronto, because I believe they also have Shang-Chi doing a lot. They have it in IMAX full. They are not doing Dear Evan Hansen as any screenings today. Oh, Akila's Escape is playing tomorrow. Cool. Once again, Dear Evan Hansen is only playing on one screen in this theater, whereas Shang-Chi is continuing to play in IMAX, in 3D, and a bunch of regular screenings. This isn't really a question to me now that I've looked that up. Dear Evan Hansen will not be able to dethrone. It will not be able to. It will not be in enough screens in order to do it. Unless every single one of those screenings is completely sold out, then maybe. But it would also mean that a lot of those screenings for Shang-Chi are not sold out, or are not anywhere near capacity. As we saw for at Yonge and Dundas Square in Toronto, one of the screenings for 3:30 is already sold out. So there's still, that movie is still selling relatively well. Yeah. So this article is here from Variety, written by Rebecca Rubin. My response to it is just by looking at the amount of screens that Evan Hansen is available on in Toronto. The answer is just no. No, it won't. No, it will not. Shang-Chi will rule the day once again. Dory saying about Dear Evan Hansen, it was fantastic, but the lead actor is too old for high school. Yeah, I've heard that. People are having a real tough time watching the film because the lead just looks so very old. So very old. I have not seen it yet. I did miss it at TIFF. I may go see it. I'm more concerned with getting to see Tammy Faye and Card Counter, as I discussed yesterday. Although it is the one big film that's releasing this weekend, so it might be something that I try to check out on the weekend. Although I think most of my effort is going to be put into seeing Night House, because it's holding. It's still staying at that theater I mentioned yesterday, so probably going to check that out. But now let us move on to an important piece of news. Actually, before that, I can feel my voice getting a little scratchy, so what I'm going to do, if you will excuse me, dear internet, for a moment, is I'm just going to take a quick break, let my voice rest up, and try to boil some more tea. I'll be back in maybe 2 minutes, but don't worry, you won't have to watch nothing. You'll be able to watch something that I put together for you. I'll be right back.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. You understand?
Back in a minute.
Be right back.
I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back, Dan.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Don't get dressed.
I'll be back.
Be right back with a search warrant.
I'm coming right back.
I'll be right back.
Hey, buddy, you pay for the drinks. I gotta go to John and be right back. Gotta introduce Mr. Thick Dick to Mr. Urinal Cake.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. You understand?
Back in a minute.
Be right back.
I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back, Dan.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Don't get dressed.
I'll be back.
Be right back with a search warrant.
I'm coming right back.
I'll be right back.
Hey, buddy, you pay for the drinks. I gotta go to John and be right back. Gotta introduce Mr. Thick Dick to Mr. Urinal Cake.
Never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, say, I'll be right back. I'll be right back. You understand?
Back in a minute.
Be right back.
I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back, Dan.
Okay, I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
I'll be right back. Don't get dressed.
Okay, we are back after that little break. I hope you enjoyed that little compilation and that you won't be annoyed when you see it forever and ever and ever over the next little while. Also, apologies if the video is getting a little stuttery. For whatever reason, I'm not dropping any frames in OBS. Encoding overload. Consider turning down video settings or using a faster encoding process. Okay. Well, that's something I'll have to look at in the future. I guess this system that I have cannot keep up with what I'm doing, which is a shame. But let us get back to the business of the film news on this The Morning Movie Show. Portrait of a Lady on Fire star Noemie Merlant develops female-powered genre feature. All words that I love. For those of you who are tuning in for the very first time, Portrait of a Lady on Fire is one of my favorite films of all time, not just of 2019 or 2020. No, 2019 it came out. And the fact that I get to see lead actress in a genre film has me a little excited. So let's find out a little bit more of this. Let's go through this article. Noemie Merlant, the rising French star of Céline Sciamma's Portrait of a Lady on Fire and Jacques Audiard's Paris 13th District, is reteaming with Pierre Guillard at Nordost Films to develop her sophomore feature, Les Fins un Balcon. Merlant made her feature debut with Mi Ibita Mon Amour, which world premiered at the special screening selection at this year's Cannes and is playing at San Sebastian Film Festival. Set over the course of 3 days, Les Femmes au Balcon is a high-concept film following three women in Marseille, southern France, during a heat wave. Those happen quite a bit. Across the street, their mysterious neighbor is the object of their fantasies, but suddenly they find themselves trapped in a terrifying and crazy situation with one goal in mind: to set themselves free. Is this like a New French Extremity type film, I wonder? Guillard, who produced Mi Habita Mon Amour, said he was looking forward to continue working with Merlant, whom he described as a promising director with a singular voice. She's captivating as an actor and as a director. She's extremely intelligent and knows precisely what she wants, said Guillard, who pointed out the film will boast genre elements and a feminist twist. So all of this sounds pretty great. Just to read down here at the bottom, Merlant's acting career took off in a big way following Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which won a prize at Cannes and was nominated for a Golden Globe, among other awards. She's currently shooting Todd Field's Tar opposite Cate Blanchett and Nina Haas. I would also say that when the Cinemateq Film Awards exist, we will retroactively give an award to this film because it's so fucking good. Portrait of a Lady on Fire, I mean. So really excited for this. Not much to say about it beyond this. I'm just super excited for this movie to exist. So now I'm just going to skip over some of the Oscar stuff you may see at the top. We'll come back to that a little bit later. Let's just get through. Let's just see what's going on in a few more of these stories first. This one actually does have Oscar implications, which I wanted to bring up. So headline: John Cho boards Oscar nominee Eric O's animated short Namu as executive producer. And I should actually be saying who's writing these things. So this one was written by Matt Grovar over at Deadline. Exclusive. Award-winning actor John Cho from Searching and Star Trek has signed on to Eric O's animated short Namu as an executive producer. Pick is O's follow-up to Opera, which landed him an Oscar nomination for Best Animated Short Film earlier this year. Namu, which translates in Korean to tree, is a hand-painted narrative poem inspired by the passing of O's grandfather. The short follows the beautiful and heartbreaking moment of a man's life from beginning to end and is billed as the writer-director's most personal work to date. It's being produced by Nine-Time Emmy winner Babab Studios. And the main reason I wanted to highlight this is that John Cho coming on board as this, in my mind, is an attempt to get this film, Namu, nominated for another Oscar and to push it forward as a favorite so that it wins the Oscar. I think John Cho is being very smart here. He knows that as an executive producer, he will be one of the Oscar recipients if this film does win. And I imagine there is something about this story that also speaks to him, that he wants this story to exist and to help put it out in the world. But considering the pedigree of everyone involved, I can see this as a fairly shrewd way of getting into the Oscars and potentially winning one of the coveted trophies. So congrats for John Cho for taking this step, and congrats to Eric O for this boost that his film will be getting. And I wish them nothing but the best. And if I end up picking this film to win the Oscar for Best Short Film, probably not this year, but next year, then we will all be able to look back at this moment and say, hey, we saw this one coming. We figured it out. We got it. We got it. Next up, Kevin Bacon boards Blumhouse John Logan LGBTQIA+ empowerment feature as star and EP. This one is coming from Anthony D'Alessandro, published by Deadline. Kevin Bacon is joining John Logan's unified horror project at Blumhouse and will also serve as an executive producer alongside executive producer Scott Turner Schofield. The movie is an LGBTQIA+ empowerment tale set at a gay conversion camp and stars Theo Germain. The role marks a return for Bacon to the horror genre, a space he appeared in early on in his career with Friday the 13th. Can't believe they left out the fact that the dude was in Tremors. Come on. Come on. Three-time Oscar nominee Logan for Skyfall, Gladiator, and The Aviator will make his featured directorial debut with the film he also wrote. Jason Blum and Michael Aguilar are producing. Bacon will serve as EP alongside Scott Turner Schofield. So this is pretty cool to see. Love me some Kevin Bacon, especially when it is in a horror film. I'm also intrigued by a horror film being set in a gay conversion camp, largely because I feel like those kinds of things, gay conversion camps specifically, are naturally horrific. They are terrible places to go and terrible places to be. We have seen films somewhat recently take place exclusively in gay conversion camps, like the Miseducation of Cameron Post, I believe was one. And now that we are, and now that we understand better as a society that gay conversion therapy camps are terrible, they're awful, awful places, it only makes sense that horror films end up being set there. What I hope doesn't happen is that this ends up being some kind of a horror film where it is straight people who are victims, you know? The kind of horror film where, like, say, a government official or someone like that arrives at a gay conversion camp to, like, check out what's going on. They've heard some things about abuse and things like this, and they've come to investigate it. And then that, who would probably be figured as, like, a straight character, is then, you know, chased down by the owners or the runners of the camp. And perhaps, you know, there's something in there about what kind of conversion is actually going on. Like, in an attempt to turn these kids from gay to straight, which is ridiculous, they do something to their brains or put them under some kind of mind control. So then we end up with, like, a straight Kevin Bacon character, let's say, being chased around by so-called converted gay zombies or something like that. Like, that would be the absolute worst fucking way to approach this kind of story. If you're going to have a horror film set inside a gay conversion camp, then you need to center the abuse and the terror of those kids who are being sent there by their shitty fucking parents. So that is my hope for this movie. I hope it is not the other type of movie which I just said out loud. And I'm already regretting saying it out loud because, of course, it'll happen the way that I said it. Because, oh, Hollywood is stupid sometimes. Moving on from Kevin Bacon and horror films to shoes designed. One of them on a Kevin Bacon film. Vans. This is very, very film adjacent, but I thought it was kind of fun. Vans is launching a new line of horror-themed kicks for October. Ooh, yeah. These killer kicks pay tribute to Friday the 13th, It, A Nightmare on Elm Street, and The Shining. One of the reasons I wanted to bring this up, and I guess we could just play a little bit of this video, just so we can get a bit of a closer look. Maybe I can, oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do at all. Full screen is not your friend, TJ, remember that. So here we see these shoes from It. They look fine. Can I zoom in on this? Is there a way I can do that on a Mac? I forget how Macs work. Nope, never mind. So you can see here, this is one from It. It's just a checkerboard with the red balloon, which kind of makes me wish that they had just done like a Black Lodge type thing instead. Put Twin Peaks in here. Don't put It. Who cares about It? And those ones look okay. And then the next one are the Freddy, the Freddy shoes, which kind of look cool. I would never wear high tops, but I kind of like these ones. Dory's saying that these sneakers are going to be expensive on the secondary market. Is there a secondary market for limited edition Vans? I know that like Jordans are hard to get, but I didn't know that that Vans also went through that same thing. And then the next one, this is the one that I kind of don't like the most. Like, there are so many iconic patterns and things from The Shining, and they chose the poster. They chose the poster for The Shining to put here, and then just writing red rum along the bottom, and it looks like around here as well. Although you guys can't see my mouse, so you don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. That, I think, is a real missed opportunity. Imagine a pair of Vans that have the pattern of the carpet in the hotel. That would be way better. And these I also kind of like. The Friday the 13th slip-ons, because it's two different patterns on the shoes. I like how those look. I don't know if I would ever buy them, but I think my friend, Dr. Udru, would be pretty happy with these. I think that man lives in Vans slip-ons. So if he ever sees this, know that I'm onto you, Dr. Udru. I know what you're up to with your shoes. But just, just a little fun thing to throw in here. And then moving on from fun things to not so fun things. We talked about this yesterday, how Netflix had dropped a teaser for a Britney Spears documentary for the movie called Britney vs. Spears, and now the full trailer has dropped. So it's trailer reaction time, baby. Let's do this.
I just want my life back.
Britney's
And she does deserve her life back.
About anything that's really going on.
Britney's never had one person she could trust. Not mom, not dad.
So very much setting up the what Britney's life has been like.
Take everything.
What was going on inside the conservatorship?
I wonder if they were actually able to talk to Britney Spears for this project.
For Jamie, for the lawyers.
I've represented dozens of conservatees in court. Not one of them has ever had a job.
Britney made other people a lot of money.
I've worked my whole life. I don't owe these people anything.
Okay, so that is Britney Spears speaking, but we don't get to see her.
I'm not going to acknowledge that I was ever brought in to evaluate Britney Spears.
Why wouldn't you acknowledge that, sir?
Someone very close to the conservatorship leaked me this confidential report.
Britney had
Ooh, non-redacted.
a million times. All of these hours of criticizing her.
It's an epic fail of the legal system that this has gone on for so long.
How do you get out?
Hashtag free Britney.
Until you scream.
I deserve to have the same rights as anybody does.
Yeah, it's kind of incredible the popular movement that has grown up around this. Coming September 28th, not that far away. 5 days away. So I did want, there was like a couple of things I wanted to point out to, kind of like in the craft of how this is shown. So just at the very beginning, this idea of Britney wanting her life back, and then having, like, opening with her face and then having the shroud come over it, giving us this idea that she is trapped, that she is in a prison. I think is actually an excellent way to start this trailer. Like, kudos to the editor for making this decision.
Britney's been silenced to speak out about anything that's really going on.
And then obviously this is probably going to be a documentary that relies a lot on archival footage and testimony. So if you don't like watching blurry images with people talking over top of them, it's probably not going to be the documentary for you. But I think it does a pretty effective job of setting up the premise of essentially what people have been, rallying against for a while now, and what has come to a critical mass in the popular lens over the last couple of months, the hashtag Free Britney movement. This trailer kind of serves as almost like a not an aperitif, it's not a palate cleanser, but as the appetizer, essentially. And I guess that's what all good trailers should do, is that they should be appetizers for the film. They shouldn't be the main course. I'm looking at you, Halloween Kills. Stop being the main course. Let the movie be the movie. But this is kind of a trailer that has to acknowledge the fact that a lot of people are following this story. They are aware of it. And this trailer, I feel like, is more for the people who might not be so aware of what's going on with Britney Spears. So it's giving you the quick little catch-up points. But for everyone who has been involved in this story or has been following it, there's also enough here that I think it would tantalize them enough, that it would make them want to see this documentary, mostly through this kind of archival footage, which is in news media, people covering the hashtag Free Britney movement may not be available to them.
Everything. What was going on inside the conservatorship?
Now this is also an interesting choice here, which not all documentaries do. I assume this is the director of the film. And so the director is inserting herself into the film. And I always, when I see this, need to question the reason for why. Obviously, when it comes to documentaries, the director is always present. They may not always be on screen, but they are always present. And, when you talk about the auteur theory, that is always the case. The director is there. They are drawing with their cinema pen, as it were, and they are just present in every single frame and every single decision, which is a whole other thing that I'll talk about at some other time. But it's not something I typically agree with. In this case, by the director putting themselves into it, and I think in terms of the way that this is framed later on in the trailer, she's trying to frame herself as a kind of an investigator. Especially in this shot right here, you can see she's talking with someone else. It's like she's laying out evidence as to, she's laying out evidence to someone as if she were an investigator. So that's probably going to be the narrative arc of the documentary. I can just imagine the beginning of it now, where the director starts off by saying, "I had always loved Britney Spears from this album," and then they show, footage from some of her music videos, and then say, "But then something went wrong, or something went bad with Britney," and then they show photos or footage of Britney Spears with her shaved head as an example. And then we'll get into the director's own experience with learning about Spears' conservatorship, and then she'll say, "But then I had to dig deeper into it," or something like that, and that's when the main thrust of the movie will begin. Like, that's how I imagine it would start if the director is centering herself in this film as much as she is, inserting herself in this way as kind of an investigative force in the film.
Financial incentives for Jamie, for the lawyers.
I've represented dozens.
And even that iconography, just to harp on this point a little bit more.
Hey, there was
also, YouTube, let me go like 1 second back. I don't want to go 5 seconds back. I want to go 1 second back.
Financial incentives for Jamie.
But we see here like Jamie Spears with this post-it note, and then someone's face circled. Like, we're kind of imagining the board that is put up where people try to link together, like in The Wire. You put like person at the top, and then you have all of the minions, and you have string linking them together, and all kinds of things that try to tell you about what or how these people are connected. Like, this is meant to invoke that same thing. So once again, really trying to go after this investigative aesthetic.
I've represented dozens of conservatees in court. Not one of them has ever.
And yeah, I think it's also interesting that the specific footage they show of Britney performing live, I assume this is part of her Las Vegas show. And in this shot in particular, she seems disinterested. And I believe at the end of it, she like kind of...
Never had a job.
Yeah, she kind of like shakes the back of her head, or shakes it, scratches it. That's something that people do. And so, yeah, she seems disinterested. She seems potentially depressed. And then we see this next shot. I wouldn't say that this is like peak Britney dancing, going back to like the MMVAs or not the MMVAs, the MVAs? You know, the one where she dances with the snake. She's not really in that, she's not being shown in that same way. And I think a lot of people watching this will have that memory of Britney from back in the 2000s when she was blowing everyone away on live television, compared to this where she seems disinterested and slow and not really performing at the levels that we remember. And I think that just goes to establish Britney's frame of mind without necessarily telling us, even though they're telling us financial things about her and how she has existed under conservatorship. Images like this show us her state of mind without actually needing to talk to Britney at this time in her life.
I've worked my whole life. I don't owe these people anything.
No one would talk.
And once again, investigative stuff, looking through redacted reports. No one would talk to her, meaning that she's kind of like out there trying to get witnesses.
Going to acknowledge that I was ever brought in to evaluate Britney Spears.
This line here sets up the idea of a conspiracy. He won't talk about it, even though it's probably just a legal thing.
Until they did. Someone very close to the conservatorship.
Then we get the bombshell report being leaked. $1 million of something. Could be important.
Confidential report.
Britney had to go into court 1 million times. All of these hours of criticizing her.
I think this is also important for setting up the overall general story of this documentary. The fact that they are highlighting and focusing on the media attention that she got during this time period in her life, where we didn't actually give a shit as a society about Britney. She was just a sideshow attraction for all of us. And this sort of media scrutiny goes to that. It is a kind of indictment on the predatory aspects of paparazzi, of TMZ, etc., but also of us as people who were so, like, we just wanted to know the next little bit of the story. and it drove a lot of this, a lot of Britney's mental health. So I think it will be important for this documentary to highlight the fact that we are all to blame to a certain extent.
It's an epic fail of the legal system that this has gone on for so long.
There again, saying it's a fail of the legal system, but I think that this documentary will probably take a more holistic approach to assigning blame.
How do you get out?
You don't get out. Until you scream.
I deserve to have the same rights as anybody does.
Highlighting there once again the Free Britney movement, which good. Like, it's definitely a documentary that should be doing that.
Years and it's enough.
And once again, coming to Netflix September 28th. I think I will be checking out this documentary. I am not a Britney Spears fan by any means. Toxic is a great song, and I will defend it until my last breath. And I'm saying that as like a metalhead punk hardcore guy. I do not listen to pop music, but Toxic fucking rules. Great song. But yeah, not a Britney Spears fan, but I will be seeing this because it is a fairly fascinating look into how ridiculous the American legal system can be. And Dory chiming in here as well, saying Britney documentary, I Care a Lot, makes a good double feature, and that the Free Britney movement reminds him of the Annette plot. Yeah, I think that's probably a very good comparison to make. Annette, the child in the film Annette, essentially being exploited by the father, by Adam Driver's character, because he just wants to hang on to power, wants to hang on to money, wants to be important, and he does that through exploiting his child. It's very similar to what Jamie Spears has been accused of doing through the use of the conservatorship. So, Dory, I think that's a spot on comparison. Now let's move on to the next story. Is Eternals the first Marvel Studios movie to receive a PG-13 rating for dun 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 sex? All kinds of demonetization happening on this show. This one is coming to us from Jeremy Mathai from /Film. Look away now and preserve your innocence, Puritans. Everyone else, kindly settle in for an incoming rant. Oh dear, this is a rant? I don't know if I'm going to read all of this, but let's take a look at it. Forgive me for painting such a broad brush, with such a broad brush. This is going to get cut out if I do a highlight of this, so whatever. Forgive me for painting with such a broad brush, but I'd go so far as to say that blockbuster filmmaking has rarely felt more cold, sexless, and emotionally distant as it does now. I won't try to dissect all the social or political reasons for this, or for why this might be the case, but nowhere is this trend more apparent than the most popular and consistently profitable ongoing franchise, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Sounds like somebody really likes Martin Scorsese. Sounds like he's a bit biased. When it's so difficult to imagine Marvel's idealized heroes desiring anything more than a chaste kiss with their love interest every now and then, the heroes who actually have one, that is, it's certain to raise eyebrows that the otherwise tame-sounding MPAA rating description for Marvel's upcoming Eternals also includes the phrase brief sexuality. We are, as you can imagine, completely scandalized by this development. Brief sexuality in my Marvel movies? That appears to be the case with Eternals, the next installment in a franchise that, with very few exceptions, has become almost completely devoid of romance, love, or desire altogether. With thanks to Coming Soon for alerting us to the film ratings post for Eternals, we now know that the superhero movie has been rated PG-13 for fantasy, violence, and action, of course, some language, and brief sexuality. The film is already noteworthy because some of the trailer footage that's been released has revealed a simmering love triangle between Gemma Chan's Circe, Richard Madden's Icarus, and Kit Harington's Dane Whitman / Black Knight. Between director Chloe Zhao apparently blowing minds by filming on location, and now her intention of including romances that apparently result in brief sexuality, Eternals appears to be shaping up as one of the MCU's most visually distinct and emotionally mature films yet. Which of course means that it will be nominated for an Oscar and all of the MCU fans will be like, but why not Endgame, you son of a bitch? Was Endgame nominated for an Oscar? I don't think it was. Before anyone comes in and cries to claim that we're asking for superhero movies to be wall-to-wall orgies, I mean, I'm asking for that, or shameful trysts that would be more fitting in soap operas, that's what Amazon's The Boys and the CW shows are for. This is more of a simple plea to depict the whole spectrum of human behavior that makes us, well, human. I mean, counterpoint, they're not human, so, you know. Stubbornly standing on the edges of obstinately flesh and blood characters while continuing to push the envelope on violence feels like an oddly misguided sense of priorities. Doesn't it? Doesn't it? So I think, I'm not going to go through. Well, there's only a brief amount left. Look, oh, wait, what? I feel like I lost my way. Nope. Won't somebody think of the character development? Looking back through the history of the MCU, and a distinct trend becomes clear. The MPAA ratings for 2008's Iron Man and The Incredible Hulk, both under Paramount's purview at the time rather than Disney's, notably, received similar disclaimers that included brief suggestive content, stemming from the fact that the films actually depicted the main heroes enjoying themselves in bed with another person for a very brief moment. I don't know how the MCU films survived past those first two. In both cases, the scenes were far from gratuitous and actually helped add depth to their personalities, flaws, and, in Bruce Banner's case, with the constant monitoring of his heart rate, the sacrifices made as a result of having powers, superpowers. Take that, sex scenes don't add anything to movies and shows, weirdos. Even since then, however, the MCU has been a dry, barren desert of sci-fi action violence, some language, and daringly, brief suggestive comments. Seriously, we checked. The rare instances of viewers latching onto a character or charged moment between characters have often seemed like an exception to the rule, such as the internet going wild over Kate Blanchett's goth look in Thor Ragnarok, which rules, the goth look, or the passionate shipping fandoms that have sprung up around Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes. WandaVision, at the very least, had fun playing around with the early sitcom trope of double beds, and thus added far more energy to Wanda and Vision's relationship than in all of the combined movie appearances. That's actually kind of true. In any case, rest assured that we'll be paying attention to Eternals and ready to document whether these rare glimpses into romance and sexuality irrevocably scars any of the kids that see these movies are mostly aimed at. Something tells me that it won't. You're probably right, sir. You're probably right. Oh, and Dory's coming in here just to say that the Asian girl, who I assume is the one we mentioned here, whose name I've already forgotten, Gemma Chan, also had a role in Captain Marvel. Surely they didn't play the same character. Are you saying that there was an Eternal in Captain Marvel? The scandal. They're just more and more scandals. Why won't somebody think of the children? So I think, yeah, this is kind of interesting. And the point that I wanted to get at by showing this is kind of wondering, like, to what degree this will change Marvel films going forward, and if they will attempt to bring on more romantic entanglements as part of storylines going into the future. It might. Honestly, I think it depends on the success that the Eternals has, and if there is any blowback from fans, people saying that, like, oh my god, kids should not see this stuff, even though, you know, in one of the Marvel films there was a 3 billion person genocide depicted on screen, so, you know. And also just, like, considering the amount of violence that we see in every single Marvel film, it's strange that this would actually be the one that actually has, like, brief moments of sex, or even the suggestion of sex. I think everyone will be able to survive this. I think everyone at the end of the day will be fine. Everyone will be okay. But yeah, it was an interesting, I thought an interesting observation that this is potentially the first time where we're going to be seeing something like this in a Marvel film, and what that means for the future of Marvel films in general. Now moving on to my notifications. Haha, just kidding. All right, get out of here, Night Teeth. We're done with you. Oh, so that actually brings me to the end of all of the news articles that I had planned on talking about. So now you know what it's time for. It's time for me to switch back to just this face. And I'm just going to check in with the film news. see what's going down in the last little while since last we checked. See, oh, we got Dory saying Gemma Chan and Jude Law were Brie Larson's teammates in Captain Marvel. Gemma was blue colored, so playing a different role then. I think that's fine because now we're also getting isn't Michelle Yeoh going to be playing different roles in Marvel films? Because she was in Guardians, and I think she's going to be doing something else. I think. Don't quote me on that. Oh my goodness, yes. Definitely talking about this. See if there's anything else that I can load up here first. Really? So sorry, the thing that I just said really too, not film related, but Tiger King 2 coming to Netflix this year with even more madness and mayhem. Did we really need a second Tiger King? I don't know. Okay. All right, so this may potentially be the last article that we talk about today. This will be ending perhaps a bit earlier than I expected once again. Maybe my premise that a lot of film news came out in the early morning is in fact incorrect. But let's just go back to it. Bob's Burgers, everybody. Bob's Burgers, the movie, has a release date, cast, and more. I'm sure we already know who some of the cast are going to be, mainly the main characters of the show. This news comes to us from BJ Colangelo from Slash Film. Now in its 12th season, Bob's Burgers centers on Bob Belcher, his wife Linda, and their children Tina, Jean, and Louise, and their ridiculous hijinks running a burger restaurant while dealing with the trials and tribulations of lower working class life. Bob's Burgers is arguably one of the best adult animated series on television today, and quickly developed a diehard fan base. Proud member is BJ Colangelo. The lovable Belcher family is finally getting their own movie, and we have all the details that you need to know, and so much more. The release date, May 27th, 2022. Mark it on your calendars. It is a Memorial Day release. There is no real way to predict what the streaming availability will be like then, but we will keep you updated as things progress closer to the date. I know that Bob's Burgers airs on Fox, but I don't know if it is owned by Fox. So is this going to be something that appears on Disney Plus? I'm not sure. After the announcement of the film, series creator Lauren Bouchard said, "We're thrilled to be invited to bring Bob's Burgers to the big screen. We know the movie has to scratch every itch the fans of the show have ever had, but it also has to work for all the good people who've never seen the show. We also know it has to fill every inch of the screen with the colors and sounds and the ever so slightly greasy texture of the world of Bob's. But most of all of it has to take our characters on an epic adventure. In other words, it has to be the best movie ever made." No pressure, right? A bit of pressure. Oh, Dory, I did see that. I did see that article pop up. I wasn't going to address it, but now that you've mentioned it, I'll bring it up in a second. The official Bob's Burgers Twitter account gave a look at the poster with a hairy arm of Bob Belcher flipping a burger patty in front of a distinctive yellow background. Nice. Hopefully it's a vegan patty. Am I right? No, you guys don't care about that. Nothing has been revealed regarding the plot of Bob's Burgers, the movies, but we do know for sure that the film will feature musical numbers just like the series. Additionally, Bouchard mentioned at San Diego Comic-Con 2018 that the film will include Louise reuniting with her precious Coochie Kopi, leading many to speculate that the fever dream fantasy world of Coochie Kopi, as seen in the episode Fluise, will show up in at least a minor subplot. All right, so let's talk about who is actually involved in this thing. Series creator Lorraine Bouchard will write, direct, and produce the film as a joint production with 20th Century Animation, 20th Century Family, Bento Box Entertainment, and Wilco Productions. So that does say to me that Disney is involved here, so likely we'll be ending up on Disney+. Bob's Burgers, the movie, serves as the final animation work for both prolific animator Tuck Tucker and legendary Disney animator Dale Bear before their deaths at the end of 2020 and early 2021, respectively. Shout out to them. Looking at the cast, the standard voice cast will be there, naturally. I am looking for potential other people who will be in this. In an interview with Observer, star H. John Benjamin confirmed that work on the film has been done remotely due to COVID-19, and the voice recording has also begun. There's no word on whether we'll see the usual co-stars, but it's hard to imagine they'd make a movie without them. So no cast announcements outside of the main cast, which is a little disappointing. I was hoping that we would get a little bit of insight into that, because typically a larger release like this, they would try to, especially for an animated film, they would try to cash in on some kind of additional voice talent, just to put in the trailer, you know, featuring the voice of famous person X and famous person Y. But I guess we are not close enough to the release of the film for that. Likely start seeing trailers for this, I don't know, maybe in February of next year. So we can probably expect announcements about things like that around then. So we'll see. Oh, Sam Cedar. Look at that. Sam Cedar. That guy from that show on YouTube I watch occasionally. He's doing a voice in this for Hugo. I always forget that he's a voice actor. Okay, so let me just go back to me while I get this this Cary Fukunaga story. But Dory, to your question on Dune, I don't know if we are going to get the Dune sequel. I honestly do not know. And to expand a bit on what I said in my review of Dune, in my micro review, the film is good. It's impressive. I don't think it's a blow away, like knock you down type film. It's not going to knock your socks off. At least it didn't for me. And I think that with a movie like Dune, much like with Blade Runner 2049, you're going to get the core audience in. You're going to get the Denis Villeneuve diehards in. But then how many people beyond that are going to give a shit about a big budget sci-fi film? And a lot of that is going to come down to audience reaction. How people actually react to the film, and if they tell their friends that they need to go see Dune, that Dune is a must-see film that they have to go watch. And from what I saw, I don't think people are going to be doing that as much as they need to get Dune to the level of box office that it'll need in order to justify the sequel being made. Or the part 2, really, is what they will be calling it. So I honestly just don't know. I hope that we get it. I really, really, really want it to do well, and I want to see that sequel. But it didn't really wow me in the way that I wanted it to. And I mentioned this as well, or I should mention this as well, that I did have very high expectations going into the film. And so my, positive but somewhat muted response to it is likely due to those expectations not being fully met. I can see, Dory, for you that, your brain exploded, that you want to see it 20 times in IMAX. Awesome. You'll be part of the vanguard leading the charge for this film to get its sequel made. And I will be seeing it in IMAX again. I didn't have optimal seating for it when I was in IMAX, and the film actually felt a little underprojected to me. It felt a little dim. So I'm hoping that was just based on where I was sitting and being off to the side. Maybe the angles and the reflections from the screen meant that I was seeing things a bit dimmer than how they should be. So I'm hoping that if I can see it optimally in like a really good IMAX theater, then maybe my opinion will change and I'll just become an evangelist for the film. But right now, I'm worried that we won't get it, but I am exceedingly hopeful that we eventually do. I really, really want the Dune sequel. And Dory, I'll get to your question just after we talk about the Cary Fukunaga thing. So let's actually just click back over.
Never, ever.
Not that. You guys don't want to see that again. Cary Fukunaga says Sean Connery's Bond is basically a rapist, and that wouldn't fly today. And then subheadline, with No Time to Die, Fukunaga tried to make the Bond franchise more progressive by changing the world around 007. And this article comes from Zach Sharf from IndieWire. Much buzz has been made out of Fleabag Emmy winner Phoebe Waller-Bridge joining the James Bond tentpole No Time to Die to punch up the script. Skeptics have claimed that the film producers wanted a woke James Bond, but No Time to Die director told The Hollywood Reporter that's not the case at all. Even before Waller-Bridge joined, Fukunaga, excuse me for mispronouncing that, Fukunaga was adamant about changing the world around Bond to bring the franchise into a more progressive place. Is it Thunderball or Goldfinger, where basically Sean Connery's character rapes a woman? Fukunaga said. She's like, no, no, no. And he's like, yes, yes, yes. That wouldn't fly today. And that's very true. Fukunaga continued, I think that's the expectation. A female writing very strong female roles, but that's something producer Barbara Broccoli wanted already. From my very first conversations with Broccoli, that was a very strong drive. You can't change Bond overnight into a different person, but you can definitely change the world around him and the way he has to function in that world. It's a story about a white man as a spy in this world, but you have to be willing to lean in and do the work to make the female characters more than just contrivances. Or in the case of James Bond films, just things to have sex with. Lashana Lynch makes her Bond debut in No Time to Die as 00 agent Noemie, rumored to now be carrying the 007 moniker. The actress told The Hollywood Reporter that the film's mission was to give the female characters equity and not just radically change who James Bond film is from top to bottom. I think that kind of actually feeds into what we were talking about yesterday with Daniel Craig and Rosamund Pike's comments that James Bond should always be a man, but I guess that doesn't necessarily mean that 007 always has to be James Bond. And that also going off of what Daniel Craig and Rosamund Pike said, that they just need to elevate characters. And I think in their comments, they were talking more about other film franchises. There needs to be like the female version of James Bond, but in another film franchise, because James Bond can't be a woman. And I think maybe what is going to happen here is that we will see this 00 agent Noemie, who could potentially be 007, be not the main focus of the film, because that will be Daniel Craig, but elevating her to a point where she is just as important to the story and making her like super badass. So hopefully what Daniel Craig was saying about James Bond is kind of informed by the fact like what he knows about No Time to Die and how women will be portrayed in it. Also, you misspelled bottom. I'm sorry to have to say this, Zach Sharf on the internet, but you misspelled bottom. I am your editor now. Hire me, IndieWire. I can find mistakes like this. So I think they're definitely right. Like, it's real weird going back, especially if you grew up with James Bond being like a childhood hero like I did. I love the James Bond films. Still to this day, I enjoy watching them because I think some of the cinematography of the Sean Connery films are really good. And also From Russia with Love, it's still, I think, the best James Bond film, and it was the second one that they made. Sean Connery again in that being James Bond. But yeah, like there are instances of Bond being a misogynist, like an outright, undebatable misogynist. We can see that as a sign of the times, because back in those days, women were not treated as equals to men. And even in today's world, they are also not. And it's an ongoing, continuing fight. And I don't think there's an issue with going back and looking at films made in time periods such as the 60s and pointing to the fact that women were not treated as equals to men. We can, of course, still watch these James Bond movies. We can still find enjoyment in them, but we also have to acknowledge the fact that women were not treated as equals in them. And I think it's okay for Cary Fukunaga to come out and say that the kind of behavior that James Bond exhibited in those films, the Sean Connery films, wouldn't fly today, because we expect more out of our heroes now. I don't think that's a controversial statement. The only other thing I'll say about that is if we look at it through the lens of, say, the discussion around Deckard and Rachel in the original Blade Runner film, there is a scene, a somewhat infamous scene, where Deckard essentially sexually assaults Rachel, like basically forcing her against a wall and trying to make her say like basically forcing her to consent, which is not how consent works. And that is something that I think would still fly in a film today, because it is providing commentary on the social dynamics between Deckard and Rachel. At that point, Deckard is aware of the fact that Rachel is a replicant, and so he sees her as being not human, and thus does not afford her the same kind of agency and the same kind of respect. As it's later, it becomes complicated later in the film when Deckard and Rachel fall in love and run away together. But that kind of thing, I think, could still fly in film today, even though it's very similar to what Fukunaga is talking about here in regards to Sean Connery's James Bond. Deckard, we know, is not supposed to really be a good guy in Blade Runner. He's certainly the main character, but he's not someone that we are meant to emulate. He's not someone who you're necessarily supposed to cheer for. He's a down-and-out detective in a film noir who is just trying to survive in a world that has shoved him all the way to the bottom of the list, except for replicants who are on that space just below. So in the case that Cary Fukunaga is speaking about here, with Sean Connery's depiction of James Bond, that kind of thing we wouldn't see today, because James Bond is a hero. We would no longer see a hero partaking in those kind of actions against women, whereas Deckard, who is not really a hero character, more a protagonist, less of a hero, more of a protagonist, I think we would see something like that in cinema still. So it really just depends on how the main character is figured in the story, if they are a hero or if they are not the hero. So Dory, I hope that kind of gives you Dory and everyone else who may eventually watch this, I think I'll highlight that one. I think that was a good one. I highlight all the ones where I sound smart. And then to your question, Dory, asking about my thoughts on Under the Silver Lake, I was super into that movie when I watched it. I'm not going to have any detailed comments on it because it's been a long time since I've seen it, but I really loved it. I remember there being lots of allusions to Alfred Hitchcock, including hanging out and being around Alfred Hitchcock's grave. The kind of film noir feel of it, where the main character doesn't really know what's going on, but is kind of just going place to place in Los Angeles. Kind of reminded me of The Big Sleep, the Humphrey Bogart film. And yeah, like overall positive, real positive feelings about Under the Silver Lake. And I wish I could have seen it in theaters. I know that it was came out on Amazon. It skipped its theatrical release, and I think that's just too bad. So let's just look at it. Under the Silver Lake. I'm trying to remember the director. Is it David Gordon Green, or is that the guy who does Halloween? David Robert Mitchell. David Gordon Green and David Robert Mitchell. I will always confuse them. But yes, this was the follow-up film from the director of It Follows, and that, of course, is an excellent film. And it looks like he's got a new film coming out called Heroes and Villains. Sign me up. But yeah, I really love this. Let's look at the reception of this, actually. Because I remember it being very mixed. On review aggregator Rotten Tomato, the film holds an approval rating of 59% based on 151 reviews, with an average rating of 6 out of 10. So obviously I think much higher of this film than Rotten Tomatoes. But Rotten Tomatoes is a bullshit metric anyway, so who really cares? Owen Gleiberman of Variety gave a positive review, calling it A down-the-rabbit-hole movie, at once gripping and baffling, fueled by erotic passion and dread, but also the code-fixated opacity of conspiracy theory. The movie is impeccably shot and staged, with an insanely lush soundtrack that's like Bernard Herrmann meets Angelo Badalamenti on opioids. I believe they mean, the soundtrack. Angelo Badalamenti. He is the composer for Twin Peaks, I believe. And then also it looks like AA Dowd of the AV Club gave the film a B rating, stating Mitchell is taking a big swing with this third feature, trying something not just new, but also more unconventional, ambitious, and even potentially off-putting. Yep, I think that's probably true. When you watch Under the Silver Lake, you kind of understand that you are seeing a film that you wouldn't see otherwise. It doesn't feel like, it doesn't look like, it doesn't behave like other films do. And I think that in the long run will work to its advantage. And I mean, look at this Wikipedia article. Cult following. While not initially a box office success with audiences because it didn't really go to theaters, guys, Under the Silver Lake had garnered a cult following who are convinced that there are hidden meta clues, codes, and ciphers sprinkled throughout the film waiting to be discovered. These include references to the mystery surrounding the identity of the dog killer, various different ciphers or codes, geocoding systems, and even analysis of fireworks in the film connecting the sound pattern they emit to Morse code. In certain scenes in the film, there is graffiti that can be seen in the toilets and on a wall, and which are coded with the Copail cipher. The film's cryptography consultant was computer scientist Kevin Knight, who in 2011 co-created a program to translate Copail cipher. Ooh, interesting. So yeah, I think for reasons like this, the film will have a kind of enduring legacy, and at the very least, it will be something that I think people will look back on positively, even if initial reaction was mixed based on what we're seeing here. So let's just see what else has been happening in the film world since last we checked. And I will just switch back to my face so you guys can look at my face. Okay, so it seems like film news is a bit cold now that we've gone through it all. So I did come across these articles that that Variety was putting out, and they've started doing Oscar predictions. And you know what? We spend a lot of time on this channel talking about Oscar predictions. So perhaps it is time to start taking a look and see what people are thinking is going to be the standouts for some of these categories. So first, Best Animated Feature. Awards prediction commentary. After playing at Sundance, Telluride, and Toronto Film Festivals, Flea could become the first film to be nominated in animated documentary and international feature film if selected. That would be pretty wild. Neon will even be angling for Best Picture attention as well. Wow. All right, that's interesting. Oscar nomination voting begins on Thursday, January 27th, 2022, and will end on February 1st, 2022. The official Academy Awards nominations will be announced on Tuesday, February 8th. Mark your calendars, because you know we're going to be live streaming those. With the ceremony taking place on Sunday, March 27th, 2022. So, let's look at this. I guess Variety does this. They just keep an ongoing list of everything that might be nominated. So their 2022 Oscar predictions Best Animated Feature includes Luca and from Pixar, and it appears that that is their number one pick, the one that is going to win, the winner of the gold statue, let's say. Then we have Flea in second place, The Mitchell versus the Machines, Encanto, and Sing 2. I have a feeling that Sing 2 might drop off this list as we get closer to award season. I don't know what would replace it, but potentially that would be the one that drops off. I'm not surprised by them picking a Pixar film, and full transparency, I have not seen any of these films yet, something that I should probably do. And in fact, maybe it's time to start using these kinds of lists as watch lists, so we can start talking about what's going to be nominated for Oscars and what is going to be doing the best during awards season. So Luca, Flea, The Mitchell vs. the Machines, and Canto and Sing 2. Luckily, we can watch The Mitchell vs. the Machines right now. Oh yes, we can. So yeah. Interesting. Let me know if any of you have seen these particular films and what you think of them, and if you think they have the potential of overtaking Luca, as Variety has picked it as its frontrunner so far. So now let's go on to the next one. Oscar prediction for Best Production Design: a spot for the French Dispatch to shine. And I could actually see that being a case for this. I have not seen any reviews for French Dispatch. I know it's been in a number of festivals so far, and so I'm sure there are reviews out there for it. But just based on how it looks, likely something that will get a production design award. So let's look at what they have the contenders being thus far. Dune, number 1, winning it, followed by Belfast, Nightmare Alley, Being the Ricardos, and The French Dispatch. And just checking when this was actually published, it was published this morning. So they have Belfast in number 2 in the wake of Belfast winning the People's Choice Award at TIFF. So they seem to think that Belfast, being the perhaps current frontrunner for Best Picture, does not get it the Best Production Design award. And I think that is likely due to the overwhelming amount of production design that is in Dune, and the kind of inescapable nature of just how lush and arid also the world of Dune was when they created it. I think we are likely looking at an Oscar year where Dune will win a lot of the technical categories. Not sure about cinematography, but sound editing, yeah, or best sound, yeah, I can see that happening. Production design, costume design, a lot of standout things in Dune. I don't think Dune gets nominated for any of the performance awards. So nothing for Oscar Isaac, nothing for Timothée Chalamet. Trying to think of who in that film would even garner like a supporting role. Rebecca Ferguson has been getting some props for her role in that, so maybe she gets nominated for Best Supporting Actress. That's really the only one I can see happening, and even that is an outside shot at best. But certainly Denis Villeneuve will be nominated for Best Director, absolutely. And, you know, we could see the trickle-down effect of Dune being the biggest film of the year outside of No Time to Die. And I think, yeah, Dune winning Best Production Design, that makes sense. Although we haven't seen Nightmare Alley yet, and we all know that when Guillermo del Toro puts his mind to something, he makes some lush-ass movies. So let's not count that out either. And The French Dispatch, yeah, it's a lot. Although, what does this mean? To be announced. Is the production designer not known? Are we unaware of who the production designer of this film is? How is that possible? I don't get it. I do also think it's interesting here that they have other films here that I think will likely be in the race for Best Picture nominations, like The Tragedy of Macbeth, Spencer, and West Side Story, and they are much further down the list. Also, a film like The Last Duel, which they have down here, and The Eyes of Tammy Faye. Also, I mean, they have them listed as other top tier contenders. I feel like The Last Duel should probably be a little bit further up because it is a Ridley Scott period piece, and there's going to be a lot going for that. And then also The Tragedy of Macbeth, we've already seen it. Although I wonder if the sparseness of The Tragedy of Macbeth will be used against it. I'm basing that purely on the trailer. And I also think that The Tragedy of Macbeth is probably going to be in more of the acting categories as well, so there could be a trickle-down effect from that. And I wouldn't be surprised to see this get a Best Picture and Best Director nomination as well. So this could probably move up and replace a film like Being the Ricardos fairly easily. West Side Story, depending on its reception, could also go the same way. The Power of the Dog, I've heard, is actually really good, so maybe that happens there. There's actually a lot of really good movies coming out. That could all be in this. That could all easily be in this award. So, yeah. But I do think the choice that they have right now for Dune, based on what I've seen and based on trailers I've seen for the other films, I think Dune is pretty safe. And then we get to Best Cinematography, which they're making an interesting claim here in that we could be seeing a lot of different black and white movies be nominated this year. The three that they show right now are The Tragedy of Macbeth, Passing, and I assume that's Belfast. All three of which are black and white and could potentially be nominated for the Oscar. So let's see where they've got things going. See, they have Dune here for cinematography. And I don't think Dune wins Best Cinematography. And I know I am a charlatan for saying so, but of all of the things that impressed me about Dune, the cinematography impressed me the least. It was still impressive, don't get me wrong, but I think that is where the film kind of faltered a bit. I may change my mind once I see it again. I think when I went into Dune, I was expecting the film to look like a Roger Deakins film, and it didn't, because it's not a Roger Deakins film. It's a Greg Fraser film. But it still just didn't do it for me on the level that I needed it to, or that I wanted it to. So we also have here in the top 5 Belfast, The Tragedy of Macbeth, The Power of the Dog, and Nightmare Alley. So out of these two, we have The Tragedy of Macbeth and Belfast being black and white films, which I can't even think of the last time 2 black and white films would have been nominated for Best Cinematography. I mean, just throwing it out there, probably sometime in the 60s. Although for a long period of time, there were separate cinematography categories for color and black and white film. So it would have been after that integration when it was just brought down into one film, because there still, I think, were black and white films being made fairly regularly into the 60s, but that kind of went out of fashion by the late 60s into the 70s, I believe. Pretty sure. Also, what if Nightmare Alley was a black and white film? Because the original is a black and white film. I think Guillermo del Toro should direct a black and white film at some point. I think that'd be pretty fun, if he hasn't already. But then we also have potential people winners. West Side Story, or nominees, I should say. West Side Story is interesting. Spencer. I feel like Spencer is going to be moving up on a lot of these lists as we get closer to the actual Oscars. Once it gets released, and it had a ton of buzz coming out of Toronto, from what I saw, a lot of that was around Kristen Stewart, and I think she's a lock to get nominated. But I think we might see it start to move up. And I'm saying that mostly because of what I know about the director, Pablo Larraín, who is great. He's directed a lot of movies that I really enjoy. And I feel like Spencer is going to be impressing a lot of people. Plus, it's a neon film. They know how to campaign for an Oscar. So I think we'll see Spencer start to move up. Kind of surprised that The French Dispatch isn't higher up. Also, what is this to be announced nonsense? We know who shot The French Dispatch. We can look this up right now if we wanted to. And The Power of the Dog has premiered at TIFF. We know who shot the film. What needs to be announced? Not seeing anything other. Oh, Coda. So this is the Apple original films. If not for The Tragedy of Macbeth, this probably would be the one that Apple would be pushing for pretty hard, in which case that may move further up. I also don't really know what they're basing these rankings on, if it's just kind of what they feel is most likely. And then, hey, down here, just a bunch of unranked films. What if Antlers got nominated for Best Cinematography? That'd be pretty fun. That'd be a fun time, I think. But I guess this is also just all the films that qualify. Ooh, Memoria. That'd be interesting if it got nominated. Pig. Pig is so good. I want to see it in more of these nominations. Sorry for the fast scrolling. So going back to Best Cinematography, yes, we have Dune, Belfast, and The Tragedy of Macbeth. Dory asking the question, West Side Story, the original, won 10 Oscars. Why is Hollywood redoing the film? I don't know. Steven Spielberg wanted to make a movie, and that was the movie that he was allowed to make. I don't really know beyond that. Like, you know, Hollywood loves looking back at their past and redoing their past. And that's about all I got. Hold on, wait. I just remembered the correct answer is money. It's money. They're remaking West Side Story because they think they can make money. That's how it's going to work. It's the money thing. They want to make money. All right, everyone. This, I think, brings us to the end of everything that I wanted to chat about today. Oh, Dory, if you like Pig, then The Night House is very similar in tone. Get me the hell out of my chair and get me to the theater. My goodness. That is all I needed to hear. That is good shit. Occasionally, I will start talking like Negan from The Walking Dead because I love Richard Dean Morgan so much. Or wait. Wait, why can't... Did I just fuck up one of my favorite actors' names? Jeffrey Dean Morgan. My goodness. I love this man so much and I can't even remember his name properly. Yes. Jeffrey Dean Morgan. Love him a lot. And the way that he talks in The Walking Dead will just get into my brain. So I apologize. Although not really. Because I love him so much. Yeah, it looks like not a lot of new stuff has come out in the last bit. So, Dory, you have an unpopular story plot for The Night House? Is that what you mean? Because if you have a story plot for another film, go ahead. Let us know. We got about half an hour before I was planning on shutting this down, so... All right, well, if it has to do with The Night House, then we'll just figure it out when I see it. And depending on how quickly together I cut together some of these other things, I might be able to go see it today instead of this weekend. So we will see. Some other things that I have to work out, but I guess we will just see how it goes. So with that, dear cinephiles, I am going to bid you adieu. I will see you again tomorrow because we're going to be doing the morning movie show every day of the week until we get a couple of more viewers in here. So I appreciate you all for watching this. Thank you very much for coming along. And Dory, since you are pretty much been here the entire time, thank you so much for your, I'll say this personally to you, thank you so much for the support of this channel and for chatting with me all day. This would be a much different show if I didn't have you in the chat to actually respond to and to keep the show moving. So thank you again for your support. And for both Dory and everyone who watches this, please join me again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And maybe it's time we start asking ourselves, is this the best time to actually be doing this show? And should it be done in the afternoon? But if we do it in the afternoon, when will TJ get to watch movies? Who knows? Who knows? It's a good question, and I don't know the answer to it. So with that, I will say goodbye to everyone. Please enjoy the rest of your Thursday and watch more movies. Just watch all of them. Watch every single movie that you possibly can. Have a good